Good morning and welcome to PIL webinar number 73, The Search for Innovative Procurement Authorities. I'm Sandra Oliver Schmidt with the DHS Procurement Innovation Lab, and I'm joined by my colleague, David Jablonski. Now, David, have you seen the most recent Indiana Jones movie?
You know what, Sandra? Not yet, but I'm ready for today's archaeological dig. I brought my hat with me today to work. I got my bucket, my boots, and my shovel. Now, hopefully, though, we don't come across any snakes on our dig because I hate snakes.
Well, in that case, you may be slightly relieved to hear that we're not actually digging in the dirt today.
Well, then what are we digging up, Sandra?
We are digging up some of the lesser known procurement authorities beyond the FAR that can be used to streamline procurements at DHS.
Woo, that's a relief, but can I still wear my hat because I think it's pretty cool?
It's perfectly fine, David. Unfortunately, I'm the only one enjoying it. Now, for a quick orientation for those that have not attended before, or if it's been a while, in the bottom right corner, we have the chat box. Not only is this where you type in your full name and DHS email address for credit, it's also where you can submit your questions at any time. We have dedicated PIL staff monitoring the questions, so please don't leave a question in your hip pocket. Now on the bottom middle of the screen is where you can find some helpful PIL links. They're hidden behind the polls right now. But at the top right, you can also find the downloads box where you can access the download the documents from that we're going to go over today. And let me tell you, we have a lot of downloads today. Just click the upper right hand drop down to download all on the documents box. Now you will see some poll questions throughout the presentation, so please keep an eye out and be sure to respond. In fact, there are two up for you to respond to right now. And finally, there is a full screen option. Just click the little rectangle icon at the top right box, then you can click to exit to full screen. Now that wraps up the clerical items.
Now, previously on the pill.
PIL webinar number 72, Spring into Action, a GAO decision on streamlined documentation. In this 1.5 hour webinar, a team from the U.S. Department of Education shared with all of DHS how their use of streamlined documentation on a $50 million BPA resulted in a GAO protest. Now learn how brief is too brief when using streamlined evaluation documentation in conjunction with confidence ratings by watching the recording of this webinar on our DHS Connect page. Next slide. On the line today, you see we have many guests, so we're all so happy to have them here today. To summarize who's here from the DHS Science and Technology Office, we have Kathleen Kenyon, Charmaine Richmond, Dusty Lang, and Melissa O. From Customs and Border Protection, we have Eric Reese and Peter Jamboni. From the DHS Office of the Chief Procurement Officer, we have Sarah Todd, and also from the OCPO is us in the PIL, David and I, along with our new director, Catherine Crompton. All of our guests, could you please come off mute real quick and simply say hello?
Hello.
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 Hi.
Be
Hi.
here.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll hear more from them soon, but first, let's go over our poll questions.
All right, everyone. So the first poll question, how many PIL webinars have you attended? Let's see here. So for this is my first webinar, we have 50 people, about 13% out there from 2 to 4 webinars, 110 people or 29%, 97 people or 26%, 5 to 7 webinars, 8 to 10 webinars, 36 people, 10%, and wow, over 10 webinars, 82 people or 20%. That is amazing. Now, for the question number 2, what is your primary role within the acquisition community? Looks like we have about 22% of you are contracting officers or contract specialists, about 82 people here. We have 62% of you, whoa, as program managers, cores, or technical evaluators. 235 of you are under that. 2 program attorneys, 18 program analysts, and other, we have 41. That is pretty awesome. A lot of program managers and people on the program side today, Sandra. And now we are extremely lucky to have with us Nina Ferraro, the DHS Deputy Chief Procurement Officer, to kick us off from the tone from the top. Nina, thank you so much for being with us today. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, David. Very much appreciated. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Woo! Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here with us. As just mentioned, I'm Nina Ferraro, and I serve as the Deputy Chief Procurement Officer here at DHS. I just want to take a minute to thank you for everything that you all are doing to support DHS acquisitions, especially right now as we're heading into the last 2 months of the fiscal year. So I appreciate that you all are taking the time to understand these procurement authorities to help you do your jobs better. Our Chief Procurement Officer, Paul Courtney, we really appreciate your efforts to support the mission, and we absolutely realize we wouldn't be able to accomplish the mission of this agency without every one of you. With that said, we've got, as we just saw the demographics here, we've got some contracting folks, but I was incredibly impressed to see how many are on the program management side, cores, and others. We want our contracting professionals to be well-rounded business advisors, so that they can serve the programs that are supported in our acquisitions. It's extremely important to us that our contracting community is aware and can provide really expert advice and assistance to the people that they serve, the program offices and the major acquisitions that are supported by many of you program managers and cores on the line today. And doing that really requires that everybody understand what the flexibilities are, not only in the federal acquisition regulations that we generally live within, but also in these non-FAR-based authorities that are available across the Department of Homeland Security. So I'm really excited about the interest that you all have in this. And again, the split out of those who have showed up today, it's really telling. In today's webinar, you are going to go on an expedition to learn about 5 of these non-FAR-based procurement authorities that are available here at DHS. And those include prize challenges. They include the Commercial Solutions Opening Pilot Program, or we call it CSOP, Partnership Intermediary Agreements, the Small Business Innovation Research Program, and other transaction authority. And through all of these, we can obtain what we need from vendors who we don't typically do business with, a lot of the non-traditionals, as we like to say, to meet our mission. And certainly I want you to know that we're not asking each of you to become experts on each of these authorities. Really, Paul and I just want to make sure that you're aware, as I said earlier, of these authorities, that they're available, how you can make purchases using them, and how the contracting community can advise our customers on how to take advantage of these authorities and when they would be appropriate. I'm not going to give away any of the exciting stories you're going to hear, but you will hear about prize competitions from Kathleen Kenyon, the DHS Prize Competition Program Manager within the Science and Technology Directorate here at DHS headquarters. And as a part of that program, her team actually helped to develop a $1.5 million prize competition for the White House, Customs and Border Protection, and the U.S. Postal Service. And the prize competition challenge called for well-developed plans for automated, user-friendly tools and technologies that had the potential to quickly and accurately detect opioids without disrupting the flow of mail. Pretty incredible. So I know you're going to be excited to hear all about this. We'll also be hearing from Peter Giamboni, the CBP Acquisition Innovation Advocate, and Eric Reese from the CBP Innovation Program Team. They're going to be sharing a story with you about how their team effectively used the SBIR Phase 3 program to award a mesh radio team awareness kit in less than 45 days. And these are just a couple of the examples you're going to be hearing about in the webinar today. Learning what each of these authorities are and how they can be used and where to go for more information, most importantly, is going to really allow you to work with these authorities, to educate one another on the best way to proceed for each of your requirements. And just like there's risk in our FAR-based procurements, I know you all have lived through some of those, the same can be true for these authorities. So I don't want you to think that they're risk-free. But here at the PIL, we don't mind risk, we just manage it. The PIL was developed around the idea that our workforce has to move away from a culture of risk avoidance to one of managing the risk, as I just mentioned. And this is something that all of you, I hope, will keep in mind while you're using these authorities or helping others learn about them. DHS has been given special authorization from lawmakers to use these authorities. And so it's really important now that we take full advantage of them and use the flexibilities that they provide. You know, because if we don't, sometimes these things can be taken away from us, and then in turn our mission's going to suffer. So I will tell you that some of the people that are on the webinar today have worked long and hard to make sure that we don't just have these authorities, but that we get them extended. You know, that's been a big push here. And again, why now that we have them, we want to make sure that we're using them and we're doing the best we can to inform and educate everyone. These authorities are going to allow us to buy new and innovative technologies, products, and services much more easily, enabling us to meet the mission by accessing, again, these vendors who provide unique products and services, but don't typically do business with us in the government. So that's hopefully going to whet your appetite. Before we get started, I do want to thank Kathleen Kenyon and Melissa O from the Science and Technology Directorate. Again, Peter Jamboni and Eric Reese from Customs and Border Protection, and Sarah Todd from OCPO's Office of Acquisition Policy and Legislation for being here to share their knowledge and stories about each of these authorities. And again, I just want to thank every one of you for taking time to attend this webinar today, taking time out of your day, especially this busy time of year, to learn about these authorities. And so that you can become a more informed buyer and receiver of the products and services that we buy. Oh, and I'm so sorry because I forgot to mention, I forgot to mention Chairman Richmond from DHS S&T and Dusty Lang. I so apologize when I was thanking everyone here. I'm moving too fast. But anyway, thank you all so very much. Please get the most that you can out of this webinar. I want to thank the PIL team for putting this on. And again, all of you for being here. And now I'm going to turn this back over to Sandra and David to kick off the webinar. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for those great words, Nina. We really appreciate it and dropping by today as well. Have a wonderful day today, and let's give Nina a round of applause for coming by. Thank you very much, Nina. All right, everyone, now we're switching over here to our main content to really dive in because we had a lot of content today. So to start us off on our expedition, it's great to know where we're going. Just like Nina talked about, we got 5 authorities we're going over today. Those prize competitions and challenges, the CSOP program, the Partnership Intermediary Agreement, the Small Business Innovation Research or SBIR program, and other transactions. Now, we teach 4 of these authorities in our PIL Bootcamp The Next Level class. The workbook can be found right in the download section there. But in that class, we're just going a very high-level overview of each of these authorities and that they exist. The goal here today is to really understand what these are, hear an example, find out how the process works, and where you can get additional resources or who to contact. That is the goal with us today. So thank you for taking this journey with us. We really appreciate it and look forward to taking it with you. And with this, we have our first poll question up today as well. Sandra, what is our first poll question that we have here?
We are going over that on a later slide.
Well, we will come back to that here, but first we got some webinar refreshers. And the webinar refreshers itself, these are ones that have been done in the past that match to the theme of today's webinar. So webinar 48, ABC's a CSOP program. Number 40, which is about the prize challenges. Webinar number 25 about using a case study on the Silicon Valley Innovation Program, and webinar number 17, Beyond the FAR Examination of Non-Traditional Acquisition Tools. So lots of resources for all of you out there that you can use.
Okay, I'm ready to answer the poll now, David. Thank you for being flexible. All right, we asked, which of these non-FAR authorities have you heard of before today? It looks like SBIR is the winner. Almost 50% of you have heard of the Small Business Innovation Research before, followed closely by none, and that's okay. We are glad you are here today. And after that, it looks like several of you have heard of OTs and the Commercial Solutions Opening Pilot. So thank you all for being here today. We look forward to doing a bit more of a dive into these so you can learn more.
That's right, and we're going to follow Dr. Pill along with most of our journey today, and he's taking us this way. These other authorities that are out there, some of them are non-FAR based as well, but we're going to follow Dr. Pill and just see where this road takes us. And for the first one, we are going into prize competitions because we always love to win a prize. And to do that today, we have Kathleen Kenyon. Kathleen, can you say hi to everyone and just tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Kathleen Kenyon. I work for Science Technology, been with DHS for a long time, and prize competitions in my portfolio as well as Incutel, which is innovation portfolio.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kathleen. And to kick us off today, Is there a story that you can share with us that a team has done previously, a prize competition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one that is a really good example that Nina mentioned is the Opioid Detection Prize Challenge we did in 2019. It's a great example of collaboration between us, CBP, Postal Inspection, and the White House. It was a very large prize competition. It was solving or looking for problems, just looking for solutions to the opioid detection challenge. We see a lot of opioids that come into the United States via the international mail system. So the prize
Perfect.
itself was 1.5 million plus. We had a number of winners. I can talk
Wow.
more about that if you want, David.
Yeah, so and what type of, let's start with that. So what was the prizes for this particular one? You said $1.5 million.
Yeah, so the
Was that
prize
all to
company,
one
yeah,
person
we
or multiple?
actually, yeah, so we actually had two top prize winners. The first prize was 500,000. The second prize was, let's make sure I get it right here, 250,000. We did the prize in two stages, and the finalists, we chose 8 finalists, and they got 100,000
We lost you.
each and moved
I
into
think
the
we lost you
second
there,
stage, which
Kathleen.
was the prize winners. We also did a test and evaluation at our Transportation Security Laboratory, and this was really a prize to send a signal to the industry that we needed to find some way to screen better for opioid or illicit drugs that were in the mail system.
That's perfect. And what type of assistance did your team provide to this team as part of the process?
Yeah, well, we do two things. One is obviously the prize team will help guide you through the design process of the prize. We'll help with promotion and communication of the prize. We'll help you announce the prize publicly. We also will provide you guidance on the criteria for the prize itself and to compare entries, helping with some judging process and managing the prize. But we also have some R&D capabilities. Obviously, we have some experts within S&T that can help along with the customer, whoever that is within DHS. So in this case, S&T was involved and also Customs and Border Protection. Then we had some other agencies involved, like the Postal Service.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So internal to DHS and external. All right, so you helped them build this whole prize competition, um, and it was $1.5 million spread among multiple winners. But now, where
Yes.
did this competition get posted out there for people to respond to? And then so how does that process work, the posting process?
Yeah, so all prize competitions need to be announced publicly on challenge.gov, which is GSA's platform for hosting all government prizes. And GSA also allows us to manage the prize competition now. We can communicate with those who are following the prize. We can use social media on that prize competition webpage. But it's a great resource just to kind of see like what prize competitions other agencies are running too. And I should mention that, we do some joint interagency ones like this one. We also have one we're doing now with DOE. So there's a ways for you to kind of share and collaborate across that platform.
Perfect. Excellent. And so now we're going to dive into really what this program is itself. And now, Kathleen, can you provide a high-level overview of what these prize competitions are and the purpose of them?
Yeah, the purpose really is to spur innovation. We're looking at things like ideation. So the prize competitions you can use to reach the general public. The one stipulation is that it has to be US based. But it is one of those ways you can generate some concepts, you can look for ideation, you can do tech comparison or bake-offs, you can also do tech development like we did with the opioid detection prize, and as a way to kind of continue to build a prototype to make it fit for our requirements. And I should mention that one of the things that we always try to do is add to the prize competition announcement that we can do follow-on activities with the prize winners like we did with opioid detection. So 3 of those prize winners continue to work with DHS today, with CBP and with S&T.
That's great. And now, so these prizes get posted out there. Now, can I respond to one of these competitions that are posted out there at all if they're posted by
Oh, David, I'm
DHS?
sorry. You can't. Yeah, the fine print is there. The fine print is that as a DHS employee, you're not eligible to be participating in a prize competition. You can't win the funds. But we do want to make sure that if you're interested in working with us, please, let us know. But as far as eligibility, it's 18 years or older, not U.S., non-U.S. can apply. And basically, there's some stipulations in the prize competition announcement itself that has rules, terms, and conditions.
Got it.
And
Perfect.
we
And I
like to
see
see,
here
we see university. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, and so I see here. So time frame wise, it looks like planning 3 months, execution 3 to 9 months. Is that typical? Is that how a lot of these runs out, or it just depends?
That's typical. It does depend on the problem you're trying to solve for. That really will dictate the extent of where you want to focus your planning efforts. We always find that planning is key here. That's going to really drive your timeline.
Perfect. Okay. And we heard the example about monetary prizes. Can you give us one example in about 10 seconds what a non-monetary prize could be?
We offer mentoring after the prize is concluded to the winners, and that's usually with a business accelerator that can help them find customers or manufacturing partners. It's a way for them to continue to develop their solution.
That's awesome. So we have this other opportunity to not only to incentivize people to participate with a monetary, but a non-monetary prize as well. And we're getting at non-traditional vendors, non-traditional people as part of that, people and companies as well. All right, Kathleen. So now we know here what prize authorities are, an example of it. What does this process look like here at DHS? Can you run through this in about 1 minute for us here?
Yeah, so we use America Competes, which is our authorization. It's been around since 2015. Really, the best way to do it is to contact us. There is a management directive and instructions on submitting a prize competition, but I always find it's easier to talk it through with people and just get at what are you trying to solve and why is prize the most appropriate tool for you. And then, we do a memo and we have it approved by our undersecretary for $1 million or below, and then the secretary for $1 million above.
That's
There's no
great.
cost to you as well.
That's great. No cost. So people could come to your team and not have to pay anything for you to help them out?
No, I'm a free person. I work for free. Yeah, no, we definitely have some expertise. We do have partners that can help us with reaching the innovation community, and we do help you with communication and promotion, and of course, planning your prize.
Perfect. Okay, and that's one thing as well. Then you issue, evaluate, and award. Now for the prizes itself, will you all front the money for the prizes for everyone out there that comes to your team for help?
The prize awards or the prize purse comes from the customer. Sometimes S&T will partner with you depending on the topic and help with some funding, but no, we do ask that the award money comes from the customer.
Okay, and just so everyone knows out there, this tends to be often considerably less than a traditional procurement approach as well, and you get access to different ideas that you wouldn't normally with a normal procurement process. And so here we are, just previous prize competitions itself, and one of these is a current one that's out there. Can you let everyone know what that is, Kathleen, in about 30 seconds, and what that is a little bit for everyone?
Yeah, we've done it's the Clean Power for Hours prize. It's relevant to CISA and critical infrastructure looking for backup power generation that are environmentally friendly. This is a climate change prize competition. We did one on cooling solutions as well. And so that one's closing soon.
Excellent. That's right. And to see more DHS prize competition success stories, go to the DHS homepage right there at the bottom of the page here, and you can access that information. And there are some differences between the FAR as well from a typical FAR process. So we need to have this so we understand some tools that go along with this as well. So again, some things on the left-hand side, we got no strategy needed for prizes, prize competition judges instead of an evaluation team. Write your own terms and conditions for it. You evaluate against the problem, as many awards as funding permits, and those can be those monetary or non-monetary funding as well. And here we got some great resources for everyone to take away. Access to the DHS Science and Technology website, the GSAchallenge.gov portal, and the email address for Kathleen's team. Kathleen, can you share with everyone a 60-second takeaway about prize competitions and why everyone should consider these?
So not to be too glib, but they're fun. And that's the thing that I think we kind of forget. Like, it is the best part of my job to call someone who's won a prize. They are incredibly thankful, enthusiastic, and they are so passionate about what they're doing to help us.
That is perfect. Well, thank you so much for giving everyone an overview here of prize challenges, Kathleen. This is really important so everyone knows this is another tool in your tool belt, especially for everyone out here on the program side itself. And Sandra, go ahead and take it away here. Let's hear this next question you have for everyone.
Yes, so the poll question was, which of the following is an acceptable prize for a prize competition? It looks like a majority of you said a monetary prize. A few said a gift basket. Only what? One person said a special meeting with an astronaut. And then looks about 40% of you said all the above. The answer is all the above. All of these will be completely appropriate as a prize for a prize challenge. And now we'd like to ask all of you, let us know in the chat what else you think might be great for a prize challenge.
Perfect. And while you all are doing that, putting in the chat, what do you think would be good for a prize challenge? We're going to go over to our next adventure, the Commercial Solutions Opening Pilot Program, or CSOP, everybody. And to help us do that today, we have 3 great guests with us that are going to take us on this adventure. First, we have Sarah Todd, the Executive Director of APL. Sarah, can you come on and say hi to everyone and quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, David. Thanks for having me. Again, Sarah Todd of APL. I am in charge of acquisition policy and legislation for the department, including the special authorities that we sometimes require an act of Congress to have.
All right, perfect. And next we have from Customs and Border Protection, joining us on our journey, Peter Jamboni. Peter, can you introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, David. Happy to join the party here. I'm a contracting officer at CBP. I'm also the CBP Acquisition Innovation Advocate. Been part of all the CSOP procurements that we've done at CBP over the years.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Peter. Really appreciate it. And last here on this team, we have Eric Reese from Customs and Border Protection as well. Eric, can you introduce everyone for us?
Hey, thanks, David. Yeah, happy to be here. Eric Reese, Assistant Chief with the U.S. Border Patrol Innovation Team.
Thank you very much, Eric. All right. Now, before we start on our CSOP journey, though, it would be great to gather some tools and really learn some history of the CSOP program. So, Sarah, can you get us kicked off here and let us know when DHS was granted the CSOP authority and what this is for?
Sure, David. So we've had this authority in various states since the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2017. So that 2017 NDAA authorized DHS to carry out a commercial solutions opening pilot program to competitively procure innovative commercial products and services. So the CSOP is a merit-based solution selection strategy that supports the department's need to quickly procure new and innovative products and services to combat various threats, and also to engage in industry on emerging technologies. Now, the CSOP vests contracting officers with additional procedural discretion and flexibility so that acquisitions for those innovative commercial products and services can be acquired in a simplified manner that maximizes efficiency and economy while also minimizing burden and administrative costs for both government and industry. Did I lose you, David?
Oh, I'm unmuted. Yep, you did lose me there. And I wanted to tell everyone what innovative meant, because that was an important word from what you said. And any new technology, process, or method, including research or development, or any new application of an existing technology, process, or method, right there at the bottom. So we have an understanding of that at least now, Sarah. So back to the timeline itself. So 2017, we received this CSOP pilot program, but there's a change in 2019. What happened?
Yes, in 2019, very unfortunately, through kind of a fluke of semantics, we became limited to products only.
Ooh, products. All right. This seems like it could be troublesome. Peter, did this impact how CBP was using the CSOP program?
Yeah, absolutely, David. So CBP, we've done previous CSOP procurements in the past, especially being the first one at DHS to utilize the authority. However, once this change happened in 2019, the removal of the services really took our flexibility away, and so we pause on the utilization of CSOP.
Perfect. Okay, so we got a pause there from your team, at least at CBP. I don't know if other people were using it at DHS during that time as well, but a change occurred then, and just this year, actually, Sarah, in 2023. What was it, and what was that change that occurred this last year?
Yeah, we were so excited that the fiscal year 2023 NDAA just passed back this past December allows us now to award CSOPs for services as well as products. And we also received an increased threshold to take us up to $25 million, inclusive of options, and also get an extension until the end of fiscal year 2027. So this was a huge win for us legislatively.
Wow, this is pretty amazing. So it seems like we got quite an authority here, and as you see the progression of the timeline, we get the wheel at first, then we get a square wheel, and now we have a Rebel Yell car. So this is wonderful. All right, so let's learn now about an example of this. And Peter, what is an example of a requirement that you have used for the CSOP program?
Yep. So as Sarah said, the services came back into the authority, so CBP quickly jumped on utilizing CSOP, as we definitely feel that there's a lot of flexibility to be used, especially with the services back in. So at CBP, we currently have a need for artificial intelligence to improve and enhance our non-intrusive inspection screenings at the border. And specifically, we have a specific requirement interest looking to procure algorithm solutions that facilitate screening for contraband and anomaly detection in passenger vehicles and cargo conveyances.
Excellent. Okay, and so Pete, how did your team identify that this requirement could be done using the CSOP authority?
Well, like any other procurement, we did our market research, but we learned that there are large companies, but also unique, small, non-traditional vendors that offer innovative solutions to meet this specific need that we have. So in result, we were looking for an acquisition approach that really would give us maximum flexibility in evaluating vendors, communicating with the vendors, and building contracts with them. So again, as I've said, with CSOP having that services back into the authority, and also with the threshold increase, we really felt that CSOP would be the best fit for this requirement.
That's great. Okay, so we get a little insight about a particular requirement itself. Now let's dive into this approach out there. So everyone's interested in how this was done. And so what is the evaluation approach that your team decided to use?
Yep. So we posted a commercial solutions opening, which we call a CSO, and that's essentially a broad agency announcement, except we're operating in a non-FAR realm. And we posted that on sam.gov, and all we did, we kept it simple. We described CBP's problem, and we requested vendors to submit written solutions. So we structured this CSO as a two-phase approach, in which we requested the solutions to be submitted in an 11-page solution brief, answering specific questions that we had, describing their solution. And then in addition, we also included an option at our discretion to request the submitter to participate in an optional tech challenge, demonstration, or an optional oral presentation.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. And so with that optional factor, how would you decide if a vendor should be included in that or not?
Yeah. So if we evaluated a solution favorably in phase one, and we saw that the solution was intriguing, but we still had questions for our peer review team. And when I say peer review team, that is equivalent to what an evaluation team would be in a FAR world. But if our peer review team was intrigued, but still had some questions that they wanted to learn more about the solution, we would leverage this option to request them to demo the solution, or maybe if we felt an oral presentation was more applicable, we had that option as well, or we'd also put the vendor in a technical challenge to demonstrate that solution.
Okay, and now with doing the evaluations for both of these phases here, or step 1 and step 2, do you compare the vendors to each other, or is there another process that you're using?
Yeah, we do not compare the vendors, and that's very important with CSOP. As the authority and the policy states specifically that we evaluate the solutions and the vendor on their own individual merit. There's no trade-offs here compared to in a typical FAR procurement.
Ooh, that could really speed up that process there for sure. And so do you just look at them and say, hey, this one's a good one, or do you use any other ratings to go along with it to help you in the process?
Yeah, so as I said, if we evaluate a solution favorably in phase 1, whether it's directly from the written solution brief or if we requested one of those optional choices of demonstrations or oral presentations, we would then proceed them to phase 2, where we would request them to submit a full proposal and get final pricings in terms agreed upon with the vendor. And so we view this phase 2 as a more negotiation phase. And if we can come to an agreement and the government likes what we receive, it's at our discretion that we would execute a contract award.
Okay, got it. That's perfect. And now, an award, or is there other possible scenarios you could have? Could you have multiple, or does it just have to be one?
Yeah, so our solicitation language leaves a lot of flexibility. We don't commit to any awards, but we indicate that our intention is to make multiple awards. We specifically said, that we intend to make multiple awards, and that could occur. We also have the flexibility of that it could occur in FY23 or in FY24.
Oh, really cool. Okay, excellent. That's great flexible language there. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for walking through that with us. And there are other success stories that are out there as well. And we have 2 listed here. This is from webinar 48, actually, PIL webinar number 48. So you can click on the links there, have access to that, or find it on our PIL homepage. And one of these, the lasso one, this is one that actually Eric was involved with. And from a program office perspective, Eric, how does your team look for requirements that might be suitable to use the CSOP program with?
Yeah, for sure, David. One of the best ways we have found to incorporate this contract authority for our mission is when CBP has high confidence, right, in a commercial capability. Usually, this can take the form of a new classification of technology like the tethered SUAS, which was within the LASSO CSOP program. And that, also means that we're also uncertain about the full breadth or scope of the technological advancements available from providers. So this really helps us to allow the innovation team to evaluate and make one or multiple awards against the solicitation that honestly may have more than one operational use case for the capability. And, as you can imagine, this benefits and enhances innovation. It's a really great way for us to explore commercial technology solutions within industry where we get to set the terms.
That is great. And we have a poll question. Thank you, Eric, for that. We have a poll question we want to cover here. That's a perfect example of how others can think about this out there in the program side. Go ahead, Sandra.
So we asked all of you, what is the dollar limit established for CSOPs in the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act? 80% of you, it's 100 people, said that it's C, $25 million. Well done. You are correct. About 10% of you thought it was 10 million or a trick question, but the answer is C, $25 million.
All right, throwing these questions at you. Make sure we're all paying attention and looking at the stuff for today. Now, who is using CSOP out there? So, Sarah, who currently has this authority? And if a component does not have this, what can they do to get it?
Sure, David. So we've got those listed here that have requested a delegation for the CSOP authority. And you can find those delegations on DHS Connect under the Acquisition Policy and Legislation webpage. They're posted alongside the HCA designations. And so far, these components have the authority delegated. But if another component wants it, the HCA simply has to request the CSOP delegation, they can do that directly to me. Once approved, the CPO will delegate the requested authority to the HCA. The request does not need to be fancy, but do ensure that it addresses some of the benefits that the component expects to receive from the use of the authority and the availability of sufficient and appropriately trained contracting staff to award and administer those CSOPs. A couple paragraphs is sufficient.
Perfect. And so now we've heard a few different stories. We've seen examples of what can be done in the CSOP program. We know $25 million now per awardee can be done for each one of these. We know what innovative commercial products and services are. Now, Sarah, if someone has a question, if something is a good fit for the CSOP program, who can they reach out to ask?
Absolutely. You can reach out to us anytime at acquisition.policy@hq.dhs.gov or our subject matter expert, Nancy Harvey, here in APL. You can find all of our contact information in the CSOP guide. I also see there's some examples here from CBP as resources, so that is fabulous. But all the information you need is in the guide.
All right, perfect, excellent. And the guide is in the downloads there, so everyone knows. So access that there, so you have that handy and can read through it. And finally, here, Sarah, we have some examples already. But what do these contracts result in? Are these all FAR-based contracts, or what is it?
Totally, David. These are something else, non-FAR-based contracts. So therefore, they don't have to comply with the full FAR requirements, right? That doesn't mean there aren't guardrails, but a contracting officer has more room to negotiate terms and conditions with vendors than a typical FAR-based contract. So unlike the FAR-based contracts, not all of the FAR clauses must be used. You can assess those clauses to determine their sort of practical applicability to CSOP awards.
That is perfect. And so let's see here. So let's go on now. And we heard this process that CBP kind of walked us through here. And here's a notational map that you all can follow when you're taking your CSOP expedition as well. First, you want to build those requirements. Then you want to obtain any approvals that are required per the CSOP guide and issue the solicitation to the vendors. The best part is you get to write your own terms. That is right, everybody. Next, your peer review team will evaluate the proposals. So for all of you on the program side, you subject matter experts out there, you're evaluating the proposals only against the solicitation. You don't have to compare them to each other, so it takes all the guesswork out of it, and there's no trade-off at the end as well. And so next, we have the responsibility determinations completed by the contracting officers. And lastly, you can issue one or multiple awards if the funding exists. Now, Sarah, should people notify your team at any part in this process that they're going to be using a CSOP or issuing a CSOP award?
Yes, David, thanks for asking. And you can find this information in the guide. But prior to award, OCPO must review and approve all the CSOP contracts. So the OCPO review and approval occurs after legal counsel and HCA review, but before the congressional notification is made, if applicable. So this is accomplished through reverse HCAST, and we turn those around pretty quickly. There's also some post-award reporting on the use of CSOP authority. So within 10 days of the award, the CO has to report the CSOP award in the ERA system or ERA by selecting the commercial solutions opening pilot from the drop-down options and then completing and submitting the form as final. I would note if a CO cancels a solicitation, they'll want to note in the reporting tool in ERA to reflect that that solicitation has been canceled. Again, all of that's in the guide, but good to know and plan for your milestones.
Perfect. Excellent. So now we got some differences in the FAR as well. So in the CSOP, you have an acquisition strategy statement rather than a plan, a peer review team, write your own terms and conditions, evaluate against the solicitation, and as many awards as funding permits. And lastly, you have some tools here you can take out with you. Go to CSOD if you want to learn more about this. You can take a training on the DHS Commercial Solutions Opening Pilot Program. Now, Sarah, in 60 seconds or less, can you tell everyone why this authority is important here for everyone at DHS and why they should take advantage of it?
Sure, it's important that we maintain our flexibilities, and Congress has entrusted DHS with this authority. And so basically we need to use it or lose it. So we use the reporting to make the argument to Congress that we need this authority to be extended and we need this tool in our toolbox. But they always ask us for examples and we don't have very many to share. So it would be fabulous if we could expand our usage of this where it makes sense. And then of course, we know our reporting is statutorily required, but that helps us with the narrative to Congress. So thank you guys for all you do there, and it's awesome work.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us and providing everyone this insight. And Sandra, you have a question for everybody.
Yes, please tell us in the chat, what do you think you might be able to buy using the CSOP procedures? Let's hear those ideas.
All right, and when you all answer that question from Sandra, we're going to move on to the next one, taking our next journey with us to the Partnership Intermediary Agreements, or PIA. And to help us do that, we have a special guest, Charmaine Richmond. Charmaine, welcome. Can you introduce yourself to everyone today?
Sure, thanks, David. Charmaine Richmond, I'm a program manager in the Technology Transfer and Commercialization branch in S&T, and I'm glad to be here today.
All right, and I just want to make sure, do you prefer Dr. Richmond, Charmaine? What do you prefer?
Oh, Charmaine's fine.
All right, perfect. Just want to make sure I had that correct. All right, now, Charmaine, I have a question. And so prior to the webinar today, I have actually never heard of a PIA before. Now, can you share with everyone what a PIAs are?
Before we do that, David, why don't we dig up an example of a success story?
That sounds like a great idea. Take it away, Charmaine.
So for this success story, I just want to let you know that every year, millions of tons of hazardous chemicals, like anhydrous ammonia, are transported across the U.S. For this specific partnership intermediary project, we supported the Jackrabbit team at the Chemical Security Analysis Center, which is one of the DHS labs, where they wanted to better understand the industrial hazards associated with the production, transportation, distribution, and use of ammonia-based products. And although ammonia is used essentially in agriculture and a few other industries, it is toxic and accidental release poses a risk to public safety, and first responders are at a greater risk when responding to such a chemical release.
Wow, so this is very important here. And so how did your team get involved with this? How do you manage? I see in the bottom left-hand side here, manager of the PIAs at DHS. Is this something that all the components can do, or is this something that your team does specifically?
Well, David, our office, the Technology Transfer and Commercialization branch, does manage all of the partnership intermediary agreements for DHS. And so it's pretty easy. A DHS program office just needs to put together sort of a brief description of what they think they need from partnership intermediary support and email it to our office at t2c.pia@hq.dhs.gov, and then I'll work closely with the team to scope the project and then send it over to a partnership intermediary to develop their methodology, schedule, and budget. And great news is that the PIA program is currently fully funded, so these services are provided at no cost to the program office.
That's great. So for everyone out there today, if you have something that may fall in this realm, you can reach out to the T2C team and request support, and they'll help you out with no additional cost to your program. That's great, Charmaine. All right, so now we have a little understanding of an example of a PIA. So what is a PIA exactly?
So this is a statutory authority that's included in the Technology Innovation section of Title 15 of the U.S. Code. And the PIAs are specifically authorized in Section 3715. And I wanted to emphasize that this authority limits the assistance that partnership intermediaries can provide to supporting technology transfer, transition, and/or commercialization activities.
Perfect. Okay, and we have a poll up for you all as we're going through this today. And so now we have a great understanding of what these partnership intermediary agreements are. And I see the note from Chad there. It would be great to have a bot that can just sort of put a description in and tell us which one to use. I think that's a great idea because we have a lot of these ones we're going through today. But Charmaine, we're continuing this search and we found some prizes with us as well. So what is a partnership intermediary now that we know what the partnership intermediary agreement is?
So the statute clearly defines what a partnership intermediary is and what type of entity can be considered. And I'm just going to paraphrase the state statute. So it's an agency of a state or local government or a nonprofit entity owned or funded in whole or in part by or on behalf of state or local government. So the entity needs to be associated in some way with state or local government. Currently, we have 4 partnership intermediary agreements in place, but our office is continually assessing the performance of these partnership intermediaries and whether additional partnership intermediary agreements are needed to support DHS programs.
That is great. Okay, so we know a little bit about who these partnership intermediaries are, what an agreement is, what a story is. Now, overall, high level, what are some of the services that everyone can provide us? 60 seconds or less here.
Sure. So we can roughly group these into 3 big buckets. The first one is market intelligence, and they're gathering information about a specific technology or capability and the possible end users beyond the primary DHS component, the market size, the trends within the markets, direct or indirect competitors, and any barriers to market entry or adoption that may come to bear on these technologies and need to be overcome. The second is partner scouting, and this is a very broad category. It's basically we can go out and find potential partners for whatever it is that a program needs, for collaborations, for manufacturing, subject matter experts in a specific area that extend both to industry, academia, and the government. And finally, to the design review category, this includes a number of services, including review of technologies to determine the current technology or manufacturing readiness levels, provide recommendations on how to increase these readiness levels, and then
Yeah, good.
the actual design review of a prototype. Now, partnership intermediary projects can include tasks from each of these 3 buckets as needed for the specific project.
And with the note at the bottom here, must be related to technology transfer or transition. And Sandra, I think we have a poll that we wanted to cover here. Just a quick question about PIAs.
Yes, we asked all of you, which DHS office manages the DHS Partnership Intermediary Agreements program? 100% of you got it right. It is A. The DHS HQ Science and Technology Transfer and Commercialization Branch. I promise you, not even the PIL could make up such a name. So well done. David, I'm starting to think everyone on this call is really interested in using these authorities.
100% correct. Look at that, Charmaine, as well. Everyone got it correct, so your message was heard. They know who to contact as well as part of this process, so that is perfect. And now we got some resources again, you guys. Things you could take with you on your journey today. There's a CSOP training on PIAs as well. Be sure to dive into that, check it out, learn more about the PIA program. And we also have the Partnership Intermediary Agreements site, so check that out and email address. Charmaine, 60 seconds takeaways for everyone on why they should consider using PIAs and the PIA program.
Thanks, David. I wanted to mention one last thing. The Office of General Counsel and OPO are revising the scope of what PIAs can do related to technology transfer and commercialization activities here at DHS, trying to bring them more in line with how other agencies use PIAs. We expect to receive significant scope expansion once this review is concluded, and that should be in the near future, and that will result in updates to the PIA guide and the CSOP training. So stay tuned. And I welcome any follow-up questions, or if you have need more information, just feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. Really appreciate it. Everyone give Charmaine a big round of applause, and thank you for joining us on this expedition. But we got to keep going. We got to move on to our next one. Just like Indiana Jones, he had many ones that he was on, and we're getting to our next act, the Small Business Innovation Research Program, or what I just learned, I said it incorrectly. I always pronounce this as SBIR, but Dusty, how should we all be pronouncing this?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I actually want to make this one of my performance goals and my performance requirements. But so it actually should be pronounced SBIR.
Oh, there we go. So just say SBIR.
Yes, thank you for allowing the public.
Not a problem at all. And so with us today, again, Dusty Lang here. Dusty, can you give everyone an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I am the director for the DHS SBIR program, and it's a program I've been involved with since 2016, starting with the Navy, and it's a fantastic program.
All right. Thank you so much for being able to walk along with everyone and help us all learn about this program itself today. And from the other side, we got two people who are coming back with us and joining us from the CSOP expedition to come on with the SBIR expedition. We got Peter Jamboni again. Peter and Eric, welcome back. Glad to have you with us and glad you could catch back up.
Glad to be back.
All right, so let's dive in with the story itself, just so we can set the stage here a little bit about what the SBIR program has to offer. So Eric, can you tell us a tale of a previous requirement that your team used under the SBIR program?
For sure, David. Team awareness or situational awareness as a requirement really for us is instrumental, right, to the duties of our officers and agents on a day-to-day basis within CBP. I mean, it's really foundational, yet our frontline personnel work in extremely austere and remote environments that have limited infrastructure, lack of overall connectivity. This really impacts their ability to communicate, receive operational real-time data, and that lack of awareness creates the officer safety concerns as well as impacts response capabilities of CBP personnel to multiple and or very diverse, operational events.
And so in the field, so why is this important to have in the field? Is it, it sounds like it's very important technology itself, but why is it important for everyone out there?
Well, David, it has been and will continue to be vital that our frontline personnel across CBP components have the means to communicate with each other and receive valuable mission relevant data. This interoperability, both from a mission component perspective and a technology and data perspective, really is imperative for us to continue to innovate and gain operational advantages that support the mission and safety for all that are within these remote border regions. And so looking down the road, this technology requirement allows us to facilitate as well the insertion of additional innovative capabilities in the years to come, which is going to overall increase border security even in the most austere conditions.
That's perfect. And now, how did your team find this technology? And what's the process that your team takes to find other companies that have technologies out there and that are in this SBIR program?
Well, first and foremost, our team focuses on the mission need, right? The needs of the agents, the officers that are out there in our organization, and where some of the more unique or hard to address challenges require advanced or cutting edge solutions. We mainly do SBIR phase 3 contracts with vendors that have commercial or near ready technology that have, through a phase 1 or phase 2 reduced, that risk in that previous phase. But our team also has strategic partnerships and field relationships that are able to highlight, these relevant companies within industry that have capabilities that align really well with our mission. So the SBIR also really allows our team the ability to rapidly procure, develop a capability as necessary, and then even deploy to the field, while also providing the vehicle for us to scale the technology. And this is really important part to offer, bridge funding that really is going to support bringing that new emerging companies to government. And so our team really enjoys utilizing these sole source or direct contracts, and we initiate several new ones each year.
That is great for everyone out there on the program side, how you're looking for them and how others can consider looking for them as well, to help achieve the mission outcomes. And so we understand a little bit about what this is and how it works on the program side, what you're doing. Peter, can you share with us how your team would typically do a procurement strategy or do this type of procurement on your end?
Absolutely. So as Eric just said a few moments ago, we operate under the SBIR Phase 3 process. And that process is very similar to doing a sole source acquisition, except you get the benefits of having sole source justifications and also any APs, acquisition plans, waived. So that really streamlines the process right there. But in this situation, we had a confirmed SBIR vendor identified for the requirement. So I sent them an RFP with a statement of work requesting a proposal with full price. And we evaluated the proposal for technical acceptability and price reasonableness. And from there, we have the capability to issue an award. I would like to quickly just add that, in part of that evaluation process, we do also have negotiations, and they really don't take that long, especially in this scenario. It did not take long because we don't have to haggle on things like data rates because that's all covered under a required SBIR data rights clause that we put in our contract. So overall, it's a very streamlined process.
Okay, all right. So one thing I can look at here is this price, fair, and reasonableness and working with this one vendor. How do you determine that? What's your process?
Yeah, so we did our own research, on the vendor, looking at pricing for similar technology or for this technology. But the main part that we use for our fair and reasonableness determination is historical data. And there typically is a lot of attainable pricing data on the vendors that when you're doing an SBIR Phase 3 procurement, because they have previous contracts for that same technology from previous SBIR phase awards. So we really use that to make that determination.
Got it. And then how long does this process typically take from start to completion?
Yeah, well, we operate under FAR Part 12 commercialized procedures, quick, and that is beneficial for us as well. But, we made awards as early as 30 to 45 days.
Yeah, wow, that's really quick. So you can go through the process very quickly there. Now, Peter and Eric, I heard something, I guess we would talk about this earlier, but about this story, about this technology itself, and that the ability to locate people, and so, locate people in the field where they are agents. So has this technology already come up where it's saved anyone's life at all? Or you found someone that you couldn't find? Has that happened at all with this technology or run into a circumstance where that's, come up?
I'll let Eric speak on that. He's the user.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. David, this technology has basically provided the means where anywhere in time and space out there in the field, you're able to see where other agents are, as well as to receive notifications and alerts, of potential issues, or even a particular crisis that folks respond to. So we are seeing some of those reports coming in. So definitely advantageous for us.
Well, it seems like we may have lost David for a second, so why don't I jump in here until he comes back. We have a question from the chat. How is the award issued for SBIR? I was going to do this recently, and the company was adamant about using a MIPR, which is a DoD vehicle for sending funding from one agency to the other. So can someone tell us what is, maybe Dusty can come back on and answer the question. How is the award issued, Dusty?
Yeah, so it can actually use any type of funding agreement the strange part about this, which Christy and I were chatting back and forth about, and Peter's probably way more knowledgeable about contracting generally than I am, obviously, but so a MIPR, from my days in the Department of Navy, is how we send funding from one agency to another. I have no idea how that would be used to fund a company unless there's something I don't know, which is completely possible. But the shorter answer is you can use any type of funding agreement. We've done VPAs. GSA is also trying to ramp up an expedited process to do GSA schedule-like awards under different authorities. So it can be an IDIQ, it can be a firm fixed price, it can be anything that makes sense for the actual procurement once you get to phase 3. And I'll defer to Peter for information on the MIPR issue.
Yeah, Dusty, I can just add to that. I mean, I think you covered them. The MIPR is if we're, transferring funds between another agency, likely in DoD, but we've issued different types of contracts. We've issued IDIQs, as you said, or just straight up funded contracts, purchase orders using the SBIR Phase 3. But a MIPR wouldn't necessarily be you wouldn't be providing that to a company.
They may have had a contract with another agency and wanted us to MIPR money to that agency.
And I would point everybody to Appendix I in the HSAM as the DHS equivalent to the MIPR-like process for intra-agency agreements, but MIPR is DoD specific, so not an option to send money to them.
Thank you, sir.
Perfect, excellent. I'm doing a quick... I am back. Yes, our connection just lost, and so now I'm on my phone. So just like this guy from CBP there, he's trying to find his way, and I am too. So we're back on, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to hop on to the next slide here, and we're going to learn more about this program itself. So Dusty, can you help us provide a high-level overview of what can be done with this SBIR program, what the SBIR program really is?
Yeah, thank you. So the SBIR program was established in 1982. It was a program that originally was done at NSF, and it was adopted when legislation became, the folks at Senate and the House became aware of the value of being able to connect with small businesses who are inherently innovative and agile, to be able to satisfy our federal research and development needs. So it was established with 4 goals: to stimulate technology and innovation, meet federal R&D needs, foster and encourage participation in innovation and entrepreneurship in women and socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, and to increase the private sector commercialization of those technologies. And we have lots of ways that the legislation offers for us to be able to provide support to these small businesses. So I have agreements with NSF where they can participate in the I-Corps program. We also have a commercialization assistance marketplace program. So there's lots and lots of things under the authorization.
Got it. Okay, and we can see here, everyone, the small business participation requirements. Some requirements are there any thing that really stands out from your end, Dusty, as the program lead for the, let me get this right, not the SBIR, but SBIR program again?
It's working. It's working. So yeah, the program was established, and it is highly thought of within Congress, and it's I always think of it as funding small businesses in this way is good for our economic health, and our economic health is good for Homeland Security. So it works toward that goal as well, and mostly because performers must be for-profit U.S. businesses, 51% owned by U.S. citizens or more. The work must be performed in the U.S., and the companies have to be 500 or fewer employees, although many of our companies are far fewer than that.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, and now, so the program information itself here, can you give just the high level, some of these highlights, essentially, of the program so everyone really understands what are some things underneath this?
Yes. So every federal agency with $100 million in extramural R&D funding or more must establish an SBIR program. And when that is established, 3.2% of those extramural R&D funds must be kind of lifted off the top and brought over and established under the SBIR program. We use that to fund the phase 1 and phase 2 of the 3-phase program, which I think we're going to get into more here soon, there are 11 federal agencies that have established SBIR programs, and I'm not counting DoD and all their components as multiples, so that's all one. And then the great part is phase 3, which is non-SBIR funding, can be awarded without further competition. So we have the authority to be able to proceed with those, and I worked with the great folks at OCPO to help establish a job aid that I think I'm talking about too soon. I jumped the gun.
No worries at all whatsoever. And so now let's do that. Let's go ahead and let's share these phases. You just said there are 3 phases here, part of the process itself. And so phase 1, what is phase 1?
So we will go out every year to collect topics on ideas folks have for challenges that or gaps they have to meeting their mission for DHS, and things that they don't really know how to solve. We will take the best of those topics and we'll put them into an annual solicitation and ask for the first step for folks in the small business community, small business concerns, to submit a proposal for their ideas on how they would solve this problem. We'll give them $150,000 and give them 5 months for them to demonstrate their concept feasibility. And because we're really looking to be able to be innovative and understanding that's a risk, we will generally award approximately 3 per topic. And this provides us the ability to look at really, really risky approaches and see what their concept feasibility is, and perhaps some that are less risky and may be able to move the needle a little bit. And the phase 1 and the phase 2 is funded by that 3.2%.
That's awesome. And so phase 1, like, how do you put out a call for topics? Is that something you just send out to everyone across DHS, or is there a specific tool that you use to actually get that out and get topics back from all the components?
The topic call is done internally. A lot of times we will reach out to specific folks in some of the components in the innovation spaces, such as Peter and Eric at CVP, but we also do that with the throughout S&T, and primarily are looking for the folks that are the PFM, the portfolio managers that have connections with the components to be able to give us those the topics that lead to the submissions that lead to the topics in the solicitation.
That's great. Okay, so we got phase 1. Now we're going to phase 2. So what's a phase 2 all about, Dusty?
So every phase 1 awardee is provided the opportunity to submit a proposal for a phase 2, which is when we give them $1 million in approximately 24 months for them to develop a prototype to be able to demonstrate the capability that they've said that they can help us solve. And this is funded by DHS SBIR, but the other part, which is really, really neat, is because we can leverage for further work under phase 2 or even for phase 3, any of the SBIRs or STCRs that have been initiated at other federal agencies. So we have explored doing OATS RFIs, which give us the opportunity to put out a topic area, a challenge area for small businesses to do, again, what they're really good at and be innovative on how they may be able to use technologies that were initiated at other federal agencies for DHS technology needs. And the great part about this is we have a $20 million budget at DHS, but there are wealthier colleagues at or components or agencies, and so there's $4 billion spent in SBIR and STTR every year. So there's a lot out there.
That's a lot of money. Wow. And so now we got those 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. I see they're awarded by the DHS SBIR team. Now we got phase 3. This is issued by the DHS components itself, but we have arrows pointing in from both phase 1 and phase 2. So can you provide 60 seconds or less as to what this phase 3 is for everyone and why it's important to the components out there, Dusty?
Yes. So this is when we can go forward without further competition, and the efforts must derive from, extend, or complete prior SBIR work. There's no dollar limit or time frame, and it really is designed to be able to achieve commercialization, but it can be for further R&D and T&E that gets us to where we need to be. And it's funded by non-SBIR dollars. So it can be the components, it can be folks within the S&T or other areas that are research and development. It can be an external partner, anything like that qualifies as SBIR. And as I said, because we can do this without further competition, we've worked with OCPO to develop a job aid that documents this process and is able to demonstrate that it derives from, extends, or completes without having to do a J&A. And there's the link to the job aid for the contracting officers.
That's right. It can be found in the downloads section as well, or click on the link right there. And now, quick question: are these all FAR-based contracts, or can they be non-FAR-based contracts as well?
They can be any type of funding agreement that is appropriate. So it can be FAR-based, it can be OTs, it can be other things, as long as they include that SBIR data rights clause and information.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much, Dusty. Now, again, we're letting everyone out with a notational process here. Dusty, you want to take 60 seconds here and walk through just what this process would look like for everybody?
Sure. So the first thing to do, as was so eloquently already expressed by Eric, is find an SBIR that has a phase one or a company with an SBIR phase one or phase two that meets your needs. You'd want to build out the requirements, make sure that that is something, the technology is something that meets all of your requirements. And then you'd want to notify us at the sbir.program at hq.dhs.gov, which is where the DHS SBIR program is administered. And we can not only help you to make sure that the process goes as smoothly and expeditiously as possible, because not all of the contracting officers are as familiar and as quick as Peter is, but so we can help with that. We can help with any questions or challenges. And then also, after you've been able to obtain the technical and price quote and evaluate and award the contract or other funding agreement, then you'll notify us so that we can include it in the annual report that we have to submit.
All right, and then we post it to FPDS as well.
Just as a reminder. Now, with the... Can be yours. Sorry.
Now you're replaced.
Yep, there we go. I think we're better now.
Oh, I got it.
You have to make yours.
I know.
All right. Now, with the essence of time here, so we have two stories here on the page itself of the SBIR program. And where can they go to find other stories out there, Dusty?
Yep. So yeah, real quickly, there's call smoothing and call secure to help to secure phone calls, but we also have lots more stories on our success stories page that talk about technologies for screening at speed, hazardous gas detection, lost person locator, explosive detections, and those are just a sampling. Even those are just a sampling of all the SBIR success stories.
So lots of opportunities out there to find out more about other success stories and to find out more about the program itself. And so we get to put a poll question up for everyone there, so you all could take this. Any 30 seconds kind of quick differences from maybe a traditional FAR or FAR-based contract that you want to mention on the SBIR Phase 3s here, Dusty?
So I think CBP did a great job of talking about this, but yes, so the data rights must be included. The intention is for this to be a streamlined process. There is language. Sometimes the contracting officers know that there's, after we help them, or they're aware that there's the ability to go directed award to these companies, but at the same time, there's also language in case they're thinking they cover the possibilities they should do a competition. There's actually language that says that Phase 3 award should be awarded to the Phase 1, Phase 2 awardees to the greatest extent practicable. So there really is a favoring of the fact that we can do this in a streamlined way with the directed award.
That is great to hear. And the last one here, we got resources for everybody. And so you can take them away. The SBIR Phase 3 award job aid, like we mentioned a few times there. The SBA, SBIR site, you can find some links in the links section in the downloads box as well. Any 30-second takeaways for everyone about the SBIR program, Dusty, that you want everyone to know?
I call it the good Hotel California, because once you're in, you want to stay there, and it's hard to get out because it's such a fantastic program. And so please reach out to our office, as was noted in the chat earlier. Sometimes there's misconceptions, and I'm happy to help work through those challenges.
Thank you so much, Dusty, for being with us. Thank you, Eric and Peter, as well. And now we got to move on with our journey. Keep things tight on time here. And we have two great participants. Melissa O from the DHS HQ Science and Technology Directorate. Melissa, can you come on and say hello and introduce yourself for everybody?
Yeah, thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Melissa Oh, I'm the Managing Director for the Silicon Valley Innovation Program. I've been at DHS for 20 years, and so I'm actually based in California. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks, David.
And we have also our director for the Procurement Innovation Lab. We have Catherine Crompton. Catherine, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, everyone. This is Catherine, Director of the Procurement Innovation Lab. Super excited to be here because we're about to discuss one of my absolute favorite authorities.
All right, so before we hop into this cave of OT wonder, let's find out a little bit about some history here. And what is this OTs? What's the definition behind this here, Katie?
Great. A definition of OT is other transactions. So the O is other and the T is transaction, but many times it's referred to as an OTA, which means an other transaction agreement.
Okay, got it. Other transaction agreement. Now, Katie, you have some experience with OTs, correct?
Yep, that's right. I've been working with OT since 2016 when I was a part of the Defensive Cyber Operations Office, and I've continued working with OT since then for the Army and the Department of Defense in the creation of Tradewind.
Perfect. Okay, so you got this history of it. You've been doing this for a while, but do you know when and why OTs were created?
Actually, I do. The authority was actually developed in 1958 for NASA to close the gap between the US and Russia on our race to space. The intent of it was to allow NASA to engage with commercial and academic organizations for a less encumbered procurement process. It's pretty crazy to think that the OTA authority was around before the actual FAR.
Wow, that's been along for a long time now. Before we dive in and learn what they are, let's find out what they aren't. So what's not an OT, Katie?
That's a great question. So while an OT is a unique type of legal instrument, what it is not a contract, grant, or cooperative agreement, and most importantly, FAR regulations do not apply.
Ooh, that is pretty awesome. All right, so now we know what they aren't, and that the FAR does not apply to this. What is an OT?
What is an OT? So what is an OT? It's an agreement to carry out projects and prototypes used to evaluate the technical or manufacturing feasibility of a particular technology, process, or system. Prototypes must be directly relevant to enhancing the mission effectiveness of personnel supporting platform system components or materials, or the improvement of platform systems, components, or materials in use by DHS and ultimately its stakeholders. So our stakeholders who have an interest or share an interest in Homeland Security, that is what the authority is for.
And why should everyone here know about this DHS authority?
Because it's a valuable tool in any contracting explorer, acquisition explorer's toolbox to provide sound business advice and when they need a tool that enables mission effectiveness.
That's great. Okay, let us know in the chat. Have you ever done an OT before, other transaction? Let us know in the chat if you've done one before. That would be great to know. All right, so now we know a little bit about what an OT is, what it's not. Let's hear a story about an OT. And so, Melissa, now can you share with everyone here an example of how your team helped procure an OT for someone here at DHS?
Yeah, thanks, Katie, for setting that up. And I just want to provide a little bit more context and just building off what was mentioned. When we established the Silicon Valley Innovation Program about 7 years ago, we recognized that there was a lot of innovation that was occurring in the startup community, particularly companies that are building commercial technologies and had never had any interest in working with the federal government before. But DHS really wanted to find ways to work with these commercial companies, and so we designed this program to really lower the barrier of entry for startups to working with DHS. And we went straight to the other transaction authority because it is perfect for startups. They're non-traditional, they're commercial practices, and we've designed it so that this program leverages those commercial technologies by shaping products as they reach the marketplace. And so we, in this story, we actually worked with the United States Coast Guard, CG 926, and their innovation group to identify one of the challenges that they were facing with boarding teams not being able to communicate with the folks on that they were meeting at sea, because there is no way to use Google Translate in the middle of the ocean. And so they asked us, is there innovative startup technologies that are being developed that we could help shape, and so that way our boarding teams can have the ability to communicate with folks at sea. And so we put out a solicitation, and that's one thing that we do is make sure that we're competing this work so that any startup in the U.S. and globally can actually apply. And we had some really great submissions, and so we put out the pain point, the use case, and the challenge to the startup community, and went through a process of where the companies had to submit a 10-page application. So it's a lot shorter for reviewers to really just get to the point. What is the innovation? How is that commercial product working now? What will our funding be used to shape that product? And what would the benefits and outcomes for the Coast Guard be? And once we review the applications, we invite, if there's a good fit, then we invite the companies to do a 15-minute oral pitch. And that's virtual, obviously, nowadays, but we did that back 7 years ago as well. We really use that pitch time to ask clarifying questions, just make sure that we best understood what was provided in the application. And that panel of reviewers is both a combination of S&T and component. And so we want to make sure that the solutions that are being pitched are actually going to meet the needs of the component, and also be able to be deployable in those operations. It could be great technically, but if it's not going to be operationally deployable, we want to make sure of that. And so, can you go back to the last slide, the previous slide? Yeah, I just want to make sure I finish out. And so what we have done also is provide, to streamline things, we also have a OT template that we use where it makes it a lot simpler to write the contracts, and we work very closely with OPO to award those contracts. And to get more information about that project, there's a link there that you can take a look.
Perfect. Excellent. And so now we know a lot about a story about what can be done. Katie, 30 seconds or less, when do you know is the right time to use an OT?
The best answer is when you have the authority to do so, and it is appropriate use of the statute and purpose of the statute, and it will enhance mission effectiveness.
That's great. And we got some great examples here of when they can potentially be used. So everyone give that a read here with the essence of time. We're going to look at the different paths you can get OTs. Now, we just heard Melissa talking about the SBIR program. Melissa, your team puts out calls to everyone one time a year, right? Where they can put in topics for you to solicit and then get responses back from vendors. Is that accurate?
It actually just depends on each of the components we're working with. So it's not necessarily just once a year. It's reach out to us, and we can figure out if there's if SBIP and the OT path is a good fit.
That is perfect. And then you can also go to the component level potentially. So I saw some people in the chat saying they've done OTs before. And again, this is the DHS OT Authority at TSA U.S. Coast Guard. You have an authority that's granted to you as well, but this is just the DHS authority. So if anyone out there has done an OT before, again, let us know in the chat. This is very interesting, something we're looking into and trying to understand ourselves. And you have great examples of success stories, and this is from the SVIPS model itself. And so can you give 30 seconds here, Melissa, to share with everyone any quick success stories?
Yeah, so just a snapshot of all the different components we've already worked with, and a number of the projects spanning from object recognition, taking information, taking technologies coming out of the retail space, all the way to canine wearables and also human agent wearables that we're working with CBP. So super exciting work that you have, and some links there.
That is awesome. And so some great resources out there. There's going to be a talk actually on September 14th from a great expert, SVIP Tech Brief, September 14th. I put the CSOD link right here so you can register for it. If you have questions, you can reach out to the DHS Silicon Valley team at hq.dhs.gov. Send them right to the email address. But that's 5 FAR and some non-FAR based authorities there. So get your FAR fan out on this hot day, and we're going to take us out here to exit this webinar and take us to the closing. Sandra.
In the chat today. Just so you know, we're on a little bit of a training hiatus. We won't have our boot camps again until the first quarter, so be sure to look for those in CSOD. If you're looking to have samples, please go to the periodic table of acquisition innovations. We thank you all so much for joining us today.
And take the last 2 polls, everybody. All right, thank you very much for joining us, and have a great day, everybody.